Okay, thank you. We're recording now.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I could have done that without stopping. So yeah, so copyrights aren't automatic, but if you want to register it, if it's like a name, a trademark is a special form of a copyright, but you can register your copyright on a particular slogan, a motto, something that you associate with your company. Um, you know, Nike, what do they say? Just do it. Things like that. You can register it as a trademark, or you can register the copyright to that, so nobody else can use that phrase in their advertising. Now, this is relevant to you people because the whoops the in the academic world, every time when you write an essay and submit it for approval at any kind of an educational institution, law, or I mean post-secondary, but you own the copyright to that, so nobody else can use what you wrote. And so the reverse side of this is plagiarism. And I guess you probably have all read or seen the plagiarism policy of Langara, and it's something that the universities, they take it very seriously because they don't want students copying other work that they found somewhere. They found it online. I'm sure it happens quite a bit, even in previous courses that I've taught, like a case study where you had to analyze a case and prepare a paper. You can go online because some of these cases have been around for a long time, like the Harvard ones for sure. And I'm sure you can go online and you can find a case paper, with that title. And people put them online and they're there, and et cetera, et cetera. We can't stop you from reading those things, of course. You can read them all you want. But to the extent that you copy them or submit them, or even a part of it, and putting your own name on it as if it's your own work, without citing it as a reference. If you quote something, that's perfectly okay. And you put quotation marks around it, and you say this is quoted from, and you say where you got it. So this is not mine, it's somebody else's, but I'm quoting it here, because it's illustrative or whatever. That's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that, and you're not violating anybody's copyright, because you are not saying it is yours. You're acknowledging that it's theirs. So in the academic world, as a word of caution, whenever you are submitting a paper, the universities, maybe you already know this, but the universities and colleges, they have some very, very sophisticated software. And especially at the graduate level, when you submit a paper, they will use a computer program to go and find the words that you used. If they find any replication anywhere in millions and millions of papers that have been written, they will come back to you and say, you used this phrase here, and we found this exact same phrase in this paper. And usually it would have to be some sequence, like maybe a whole sentence, maybe something like that. But and you'll be accused of plagiarism because you have copied somebody else's work without acknowledging it. And just a quick story about that, how thorough they are. I know a young woman here is my neighbor. She just graduated from UBC. Very, very good student. Straight A student. She got scholarships to go to Cambridge and to Oxford. So a very, very capable student. And she submitted a paper, in one course in her 4th year. And they came back and they said, you've plagiarized yourself, because we found some of the work in this paper. We found it in another paper, but you wrote it. So it's your own. You're not even allowed to do that. You can't plagiarize yourself. Because what it was a part of a paper she'd written in a similar course. She was majoring in philosophy or something like that. And so the two courses were, similar enough. She did. Yeah, she said, well, yeah, I used some of the material that I wrote in that course, in that paper. It's my work. I thought of it. And they said, yep, but you cannot use the same material twice at a university. You can't use the same material twice. So she got off with a warning. But so plagiarism is a very important issue in the academic world, and I've caught a couple of students doing it. Now they didn't know they were doing something wrong, and so they just got a warning. They said, okay, well, you didn't understand that. Never do it again. If you're caught doing it again, you can be expelled. You can be kicked out of the university. Whatever. They take it very seriously. So anyway, not that any of you have anything to worry about there, I don't think, but be very aware of copyright and plagiarism. Anybody have any comments on that? Anybody been exposed to anything like that, or any thoughts on that?
Just to verify, Doug, so a patent is more on products, while
Yeah.
copyrights are more on, what's written here, books, software, songs, film,
That's correct.
advertisements, papers.
Yeah.
It's written work.
It's generally written work.
Okay,
Yeah, that's right. In copyrights, it's written work. Patents are on usually objects.
products. Okay, got it. Noted.
Where it's a good question, actually, because where it does get a little iffy is in software. Where is the line between the hardware, the actual, the physical devices, and the coding that is on them? And so, like, Apple, of course, they have patents on their iPhones, but they can't patent the whole phone, because they bought the display from somebody. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the phone, and so they developed like their own display. But I think it was, they got taken. They were challenged by one of the other iPhone company. I think it was a Korean iPhone company, who said, you're using the same display as ours. You cannot use our display on your phone. And Apple, they get into a battle over, well, it's not the same display. It looks the same, it behaves the same, but we built it. And they said, well, you might have, but you copied ours. And they get into a debate about, you're using the same software to drive the display, and that software is patented. So apparently it is possible to patent software. And that's a whole special area that I know nothing about, but a very, very specialized and very, very important area. So thank you for asking the question. So generally, patents are things, and copyrights are words, if you will. But they do overlap. They can overlap in the software business, I guess, technology business. Good question. Any other thoughts, comments? And here's the same idea, trade secrets, confidential information. I'm sure, has anybody here been asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement by anybody? A previous employer? Anywhere you've worked? Nobody, really. They're very common. And so be aware if you take a job somewhere, and maybe that you just haven't had the right kind of job yet, but you will. Um, Very often, as part of the condition of your employment, they will ask you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, or an NDA. NDA is very, very common. I'm sure you've heard of them. And what that basically says, that you must not disclose any information, any confidential information, and that's the key definition, that you learn while you are working there. So when you go to work somewhere and they're doing things, they may be designing things, or they're doing things in a particular way. They may have a particular process. You can see here the examples: formulas, supplier, customer lists, procedures, training programs. They may have, it could be just about anything that they think is kind of unique to the way they work. It could even be something as the way they organize their merchandise in their warehouse. They may have a really slick way of getting stuff from the warehouse when there's an order. And anyway, so when you sign a non-disclosure agreement, you are saying that you will not disclose any of that information to anybody. It's a trade secret. Okay. Now, and that includes after you leave. So when you leave the company, and this is usually what happens, people leave a company and they go to work somewhere else. And of course, you're now more of an expert because you've learned how to do a lot of things in one company, and you move on to another company. Maybe they give you a promotion. And so it's considered reasonable and expected and acceptable that, of course, you're going to take some of the things that you've learned to the new company. You're now a more knowledgeable person. So that, and a certain amount of that is okay. But where is the line between taking what you learned from the previous company and it was sensitive to them, and they consider it kind of a trade secret, and they don't want their competition to know. So, and there's no clear answer. It's a fuzzy line for sure. Where does just normal industry knowledge, where does that stop, and where does trade secret start? So it's something to be aware of, that if you are ever asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and you probably will be. I've signed dozens of them myself, and there's always exclusions in them. You're not held responsible for things that you learn from somewhere else. Like, let's say you work at company A and you go to work for company B, and you find out company B is doing exactly the same thing anyway. It's just sort of common knowledge. It's industry practice. So you can say, all right, I learned that from somewhere else besides company A. So company A cannot say that's a trade secret because it's just general industry knowledge. And so there are always exceptions. So trade secrets get to be a little tricky too. And people generally don't pursue them unless there's a lot of money involved. If it's a very small thing, then you don't really need to worry. So what is a trade secret? And so when can a company say that a particular piece of information is a trade secret? First of all, it has to have some value. That it can be sold, if you will, or so it's economically valuable. It's just not everyday knowledge that everybody has. It's not generally known. And they have to show that in the company, they have taken some effort to keep it as a secret. Like either they put labels on the documents, or they keep them in a separate place, or only certain employees can be told this information, and that when you are being told, you are being told that you are one of only a few people that is being given this information because you need it for your job. And they'll tell you that other people in the company they don't need it for their job, so they're not being told. You are being told a trade secret. And sometimes they'll even get you to document the fact that you acknowledge that you were told a trade secret. And so it comes under the, they'll say it comes under the purview of the non-disclosure agreement. So we won't go through this in a lot of detail, but if a company wants to maintain a trade secret, like we said, they have to limit access to it or do other precautions. They can't just say that was a trade secret, but it can apply to pretty well anything. But they have to tell the buyer that when the buyer is buying something, that the buyer is buying something that's got a trade secret embedded in it. Okay. And then it's best to use a signed non-disclosure agreement. So then the non-disclosure agreement quite often will actually say or specify the areas that are considered trade secret. And it'll say usually, and others at the end of the list. So that's really all I wanted to deal with on trade secrets. But NDAs, they're around a lot. For some reason, companies are going crazy with them. I don't know why. They're signing them all over the place. And especially if you leave a company, they'll ask you to sign a non-disclosure agreement when you leave. They sometimes even ask you to sign a non-disclosure agreement if you've been fired. I know I've been let go from 4 different companies. I've lost my job 4 times. It was never anything that I did. It wasn't my fault. They were just, they either had eliminated the position they no longer required my job, so they were just letting me go. And when they do that, they have to pay you. So they had to pay me money to let me go. They then, in return for that, they would ask me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, including, I can't tell anybody about the non-disclosure agreement. I can't tell them the terms of what the severance were. I can't tell them how much they paid me, et cetera, et cetera. You have to keep that a secret when you leave like that, if they pay you. So non-disclosure agreements are kind of all over the place. So I would just caution you just to be aware of them. Usually they're no big deal, but if you are being asked to sign one and you've never signed one before, at least your first one, read it, so you understand what you're signing. Okay, I just wanted to. Okay. There's a couple of laws here that are only happen in the U.S. And so I would have skipped over them, but the first one, United Nations Convention on Contracts for International Sale of Goods. That's obviously not American, and quite often you'll see that in contracts, and so quite often what it'll say is this contract specifically excludes the CISG. The CISG does not apply to this contract. Only the terms within the contract apply. So this is only obviously done for international sale. And anytime I've seen this referred to, it's always been excluded. So to be honest with you, I have not read it very much. I think I might have looked at it a long time ago. But if the contract you sign internationally for sale of goods, if you don't exclude this in your contract, and then some sort of a dispute comes up in your contract, and the issue that's under dispute is not specifically addressed in the contract, this will be one of the first places that one side or the other will go. They'll go, well, let's go read the United Nations Convention, because it sort of applies. And unless it is specifically excluded in your contract, the other side can say, well, look, the United Nations Convention says this, and you didn't do it. So that applies or can apply to international contracts anywhere. The next ones are the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is uniquely American, although Canada has a version of it. And what that basically says is that no American company that's registered in the US can engage in any practice anywhere else in the world that would be considered corrupt in the United States. So, it's illegal to bribe in the US, okay? So you can't go somewhere else and bribe an official in a different country just because it's a different country. If you're an American registered company, you're breaking an American law by acting in a corrupt way overseas. And Canada has its own version of that. So Canadian companies cannot act improperly in other countries, and they can be prosecuted within Canada. This was a very famous, this was in the news about a year and a half ago. A big Canadian company called SNC-Lavalin was engaging in illegal practices somewhere. I've forgotten where it was, Libya, I think. And they allegedly, were doing things to get business in Libya that you would be illegal in Canada. And so they were being prosecuted, or could be prosecuted, in Canada. And the Prime Minister was involved, and he said, don't prosecute that company. And the Attorney General wanted to prosecute the company. And it turned out the Prime Minister has good friends who work for the company. And so he interfered in the judicial process, etc. And it got to be a real mess. So SNC-Lavalin, if you look that up, there's all kinds of news, and it was a year and a half ago. Yeah, about a year and a half ago now. So there are laws, every country has them, that apply to international purchasing. And they can be domestic. There's the basic contract law, and then most countries have got export controls that you can't export certain things out of the country. That it's if they want to control them. Okay, the U.S. is very, very picky about military technology that was developed in the United States by various companies, and they don't want those companies selling those goods, even though they're theirs, they own them. But the U.S. government would have bought it from that company and said, okay, we'll buy it from you, but you cannot export that technology to anybody without our permission. And there was a time when I was quite expert in that, and I knew a lot about export controls. Canada does exactly the same thing. So if Canadian technology, and mostly military, things that are developed for the military, they do not want you exporting them without their permission. So you'll ask you, where are you selling it? What's it for? Who's buying it? Where will it be used? Do you know who the end user is? All that good stuff. And they'll come back to you and say, okay, that's fine. We've checked that out. Or they may come back and say, nope, you cannot sell that technology to that country or anybody in that country at all. Currency control, same thing. They're dealing with different currencies. There's often limits on the way you can trade various currencies, and et cetera, et cetera. You can't undermine, you can't overprice. You have to, stick within the terms of the world market on currency. Can't make up your own, I don't think. You can have fraudulent currencies. And then in criminal law, obviously, will come into play as well. And international laws, things I don't know very much about, maritime law. And this is the United Nations governs most of that. But what goes on at sea and whose laws apply. And there are internationally recognized laws that all countries abide by you know, when you're on in the open ocean, when you're in nobody's territory. A few of your previous cohorts, two people that I know in particular were experts on maritime law. They were trained in maritime business. Does anybody here have any familiarity with maritime laws and things that go on when you're shipping? Besides Incoterms, maybe? Okay. I'm not an expert on that, you know, by any stretch. Purchasing ethics. Let's take a short break. We're going for an hour. And we'll come back and we'll talk about ethics. And then we'll, after that, we'll get into our negotiation. So I'm just going to stop the screen here for a second. Somebody has left us. So we're down to 24 people from 25. Anyway, it's 11:05. Let's come back at 11:20, a 15-minute break, and we'll carry on from there. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think we're all mostly back, but we'll continue. And we're going to get into one our favorite topic is, and that is ethics. So I'll share a screen again. And I think we've discussed this before a few times, like what is ethics, and I think we've all agreed that ethics is defined by the environment that you're in. The ethics is different from one company to another, can be. It can be different from one country to another. It can be different in one family. Things that are considered fair in one environment may not be considered fair in a different environment. So there's no real clean definition of ethics, but as I say here, it's grounded in philosophy, and the set of ethics is what people abide by. It guides our behavior. What do we do? And but in business, I think it's fair to say mostly that we will treat our suppliers and our customers, I guess, as it says here, in a just, a decent, fair, whatever fair is, honest, and fitting manner. Now, those words, there's 5 of them there, they all are all open to definition. And so what does just mean? And so those definitions are the definitions of ethics. And they vary, from place to place. So there are some rules, in a way, certainly in usual business circles, in that you need to be committed to the benefit of the place you work rather than for you. And that's certainly true, anywhere in North America, probably lots of places. So if you're working for somebody, you must always be working for the benefit of the organization that employs you. So therefore, you must not accept outside gifts, favors, or bribes that influence your decision. And that's the key part, right? So, and you must not be tempted or influenced by unethical practices of salespeople. A salesperson saying, "Hey, if you buy this product from me, then you can have a free one, yeah, or I'll give you something in return, okay, a discount on if you buy this product from me, when it comes time for you to buy something for yourself, you can buy it from me, and I'll give you a 50% discount when you buy one for yourself on your own, a car or whatever it might be." So unethical practices of salespeople. I think it's a little unfair to say that the salespeople are being unethical, but maybe it's primarily on that side of the transaction. But the buyers can do exactly the same thing. A buyer could say to a seller, "Hey, I'll give you the order if you give me a free car," that kind of thing. And you must not have any financial arrangement with a supplier. You can't be a shareholder in a company that you're doing business with without disclosing it. You certainly have to disclose it to your company. When I've worked for a couple of companies, and I had to disclose a fair amount of my own personal investments, just so they could be sure that I wasn't a stockholder in any company that, or in any industry that they might likely be doing business with, because that could conceivably influence my behavior in the company. So sometimes you get asked that to disclose, do you have any relatives that work for any of our major suppliers? You can't do business with your brother, your father, or any direct relative like that. But there's always a line, isn't there? An outside gift. Well, is a pen a gift? Strictly speaking, a pen is a gift, and you shouldn't accept a pen. And so there's a line between unethical and usual and normal. I think I might have said when I worked for one of the technology companies here in Vancouver, the rule that they had for employees was you must not engage in any behavior that is not considered acceptable in ethical business circles. Well, that kind of left things pretty wide open. But that means you could accept usual stuff. A pen was okay, but we would take turns buying tickets to hockey games and things like that. I would buy a ticket for a supplier. I would take him to one game. Next game, he would take me. Now, strictly speaking, were we unethical? Maybe, but it was fair. We were being fair. We were playing turnabout. I bought him lunch. He bought me lunch. And well, we're skipping over some of these because they're fairly obvious. You must uphold the ethical standards set forth by your organization and the profession. So maybe you're an engineer, a professional purchaser. That's now a profession now. You can be certified, or a doctor, logistician, people like that. So I think I probably didn't send it to you, but I will. The code of conduct and the ethical standards of the Supply Chain Management Association. So by being a student or a member of that organization, you're expected to behave in a certain way, and it's all spelled out. And I did not send that, but I will send it later today. And almost all professional associations have a set of rules and a set of ethical standards. And why do buyers find themselves more in situations where they might be open to unethical behavior? And one of the biggest ones is that, as buyers, we have access to a lot of money. We're spending company money, and we control where it goes, where the money gets spent, what it gets spent on, et cetera, et cetera. So sellers know that the buyers are the good target, right? They're the people they try to influence because they're the ones in charge of spending the money. And so on the selling side, because they are rewarded in certain ways, sales goals and bonuses and things like that. I mean, a salesperson, if they sell that one last product before the end of the month, it could mean a lot of money in their pocket because they'll meet a bonus, they'll meet a target. So they might give away a product. They might say, hey, if you can have this product for 20% of the usual price. They just want to sell it. They don't care. Their dollar limit, they've already hit it. They got to sell one more unit. And so you may get people doing unusual things because they personally stand to gain by a bonus or whatever it might be. Now, the question then is it illegal? And an unethical act isn't by itself illegal. And generally, they're two different things. But an unethical act could also be illegal. Okay? And so you could be breaking a law as well as breaking a custom, if you will. But generally speaking, unethical acts are not illegal. You're not breaking a law. You're just doing something that you shouldn't do. Not that you mustn't do, but you shouldn't do, okay? But, you know, if you do this, you are at some risk. You may lose your job. If somebody tries to come after you as a buyer, that you did something you shouldn't have done, and your company says, no way, we're backing you on that one. You could be sued and become personally bankrupt if a seller comes after you successfully. And if you did break the law, you could end up in prison. Very seldom that happens, but it can happen. And when a buying company does that, it risks their reputation. And because if they agree to allow a supplier to give them special treatment, that is corrupt or illegal or unethical. Anyone, feel free to stop me anywhere along the line here if it reminds you of a story or if you got a comment or something that you saw or whatever, because all of you have, coming from different countries, will all have seen variations of this, and it'd be very interesting to hear any stories you may have that kind of relate to any of this, and things that, like I told you the story about the zoo in Jakarta, I think, and it was considered perfectly fine there, but it wouldn't be considered perfectly fine here to pay my way into the zoo and pay the workers to give me special treatment, where there it was okay. A sharp practice here's a definition of it. I like it. Sneaky or cunning that is within the law, but either is not quite unethical, but it's close. Okay, so sharp. It's certainly questionable. Okay, we're not quite sure. So a lot of companies will say you will not engage in any sharp practices. So you're making it very clear that we don't want you going anywhere near the unethical border, the unethical line. We don't want you being near the crossing the line there. Stay well back from that. So anybody looking at you and what you're doing would say they are within the law, they're being ethical, they're being fair, as judged by an impartial, if you will, an impartial observer would say, yep, that person is acting properly. And here are some examples of these things where that can be unethical. They're certainly not illegal, but using misinformation intentionally, making problems sound worse than they are. And I think the case we talked about a couple of weeks ago, requesting bids from unqualified suppliers solely to drive down prices from qualified suppliers. So, this is, that's clearly unethical, improper, unfair, against good practice, etc. But it's not illegal. There's nothing to stop you from doing it. You can do it. But when people find out you're doing it, then you're really not doing yourself any favors at all. The suppliers will find out that you're just testing the market. You're creating artificial competition, et cetera, et cetera. And when we talked about last week with contract A and contract B, if the example we talked about was the BC Ministry of Highways. They said in their RFP they would only accept bids from pre-qualified bidders, and then they accepted then they did accept a bid from someone who wasn't on the pre-qualified list. So an unsuccessful bidder came after them saying, you have breached contract A that says you will do what you didn't do, what you said you were going to do in the RFP, and that is not accept bids from suppliers who were not on the pre-qualified list. So that's an attempt to really make it as clear as they possibly could. And then doing anything to get information from bidders, et cetera, et cetera. through deception, saying, "Hey, I've got a big order. I'm thinking about placing." You're talking to a bidder. I'm thinking about I've got an order maybe of 10,000 units maybe, but if it's an order like that, what would your price be? And you get one supplier to tell you a price when you really got you have no intent of placing an order that size, but you kind of deceive them and you make something look like it isn't. And they say, okay, well, the price would be $2 or something like that. And then you go to competition for an order of only 500. And you end up negotiating with, and you think a fair price now is $2. Or you tell company B that company A was going to, told you the fair price is $2, et cetera, et cetera. So just getting information not fairly. Sharing information on competitive quotation. This I've seen some examples of this. I don't really agree that you should, as a buyer, you should share information from one bidder to another. I think the bidders have a right to expect that their bid will remain a secret. Unless they win and you're in public practice, then you have to disclose the winning price, but that's okay. But the losing bidders shouldn't have their prices disclosed, and nor should bidder A find out what bidder B was bidding. And if a supplier is designing something and they want to get paid for the design, and you could say, no, I'm not going to pay for the design, I just want to buy the product. That might be okay, but if they designed it specifically for you, maybe it's whatever, or at a very low volume, then you really should be compensating the supplier to design it or allowing them to build it into their price. Knowing a supplier is in tough shape, they're in financial difficulty, and you take advantage of that by using that in the negotiation. And lying, of course, is a sharp practice as well. And so we don't need to go through this in any real long detail, but the types of unethical behavior that we've talked about before is supplier favors, reciprocity, doing favors back and forth. I'll buy from you if you'll sell to me, et cetera, et cetera. I'll increase my quantity. I'll give you a special order if you'll give me a discount. That kind of reciprocity. Some of it is perfectly okay. Personal buying for your own use, using company prices and things like that. Conflicts of interest, personal conflicts of interest, and disclosure of information that you should not be disclosing. Favors. What's a favor? What's a gift? And again, where's the line? At what point does a gift represent showing appreciation versus an attempt to, like if a seller, gives you a gift because they appreciate you gave them some business, is that just being nice? Is it normal? Is it the usual? Or are they trying to really get into your good books so that you'll give them an order the next time around? So making you feel like you owe them one. And that, of course, is not ethical. And then someone who you've never done business with, but it's a potential supplier, and they give you a gift. Why? Why are they giving you a gift? There was a general in the United States, an admiral, and his name escapes me for the minute, but a very, very senior admiral. In fact, he was in charge of all the nuclear programs in the United States Navy, all their nuclear submarine propulsion systems and things like that. Admiral Rickover. And you could Google his name, and you could spell Rickover. Admiral Rickover. Well, he was really, really famous as a real character. And he got all kinds of gifts from major companies in the United States. I mean, very expensive things. And one was one company gave him a collection of very rare art from South Africa somewhere. It was rare art done by native South Africans or the Congo. Anyway, very rare, very expensive artwork. And he got caught. He got caught doing that, and he was taken in front of the United States Congress, and he was asked. He said, "Did you accept gifts from company ABC?" And he said, "Yes, I don't deny it at all." And he said, "But the reason for the rules about not accepting gifts or favors is so that they do not influence my judgment or in any way make me behave in a way that is not in the best interest of the United States of America." He said, as a member, a senior member of the military, I am obliged to always conduct myself in the best interests of the United States of America. And if anybody can show me where my judgment was improperly influenced, and if I ever acted in a way that was not in the best interest of the United States of America, I will resign on the spot. And I challenge anyone to do that. And they couldn't. They couldn't show anywhere that he was actually acting improperly. He'd made any improper judgments or any improper decisions. So they couldn't do anything about the gifts. He said the gifts were just normal stuff. So that was a well-known case, but the rules are still there. And but yeah, if you look up Admiral Rickover, he was famous for acting in very strange ways. So we talked about reciprocity, and you may have a supplier who's also a customer, and so I'll buy from you if you buy from me, that kind of thing. Trade issues, and then when you're evaluating a company, a supplier, you must only use performance criteria that are generally recognized and legitimate in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't just evaluate their capability because you happen to know them. You say, "Oh, I know this company can do it. I know it. I know one of my best friends works there, and I know they can do this. They never have before, but I know they can do it." Again, you might be legitimate, you might be proper, but where is the line between just getting information that's normally available, or are you acting in a way that will benefit your friend, and that may benefit you? So personal buying, where the purchaser, you may buy material that for the personal needs of its employees, and so you go out, you buy something that you need. It's just for you. Now maybe you can, maybe you can't, maybe you do need it, maybe you need it for your job, maybe you kind of need it for your job, et cetera, et cetera. So buying things for yourself using company money, and the rationale is, well, I need it to do my job. Same thing with financial conflicts of interest. Buying if you own shares in one of your suppliers, or you're a family friend or whatever, you may have to disclose it. Like I had to disclose that I had where my investments were, my retirement investments, and some, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing with conflicts of interest. So the key here, obviously, is being let people know, tell people about it before it becomes a question, and that way you can never be accused of holding back information. So if you, I was hired by a big company here, I won't say which it was, to be a consultant. Now, it so happened my daughter worked there at that company. It was a very large company, but the person who was hiring me to be a consultant, he knew my daughter and he knew the connection between us. And so everything was very out in the open. Yes, he did hear about me through my daughter, my daughter told them the kind of work that I did, and they, oh, okay, that sounds very interesting. And they based on that, they ended up hiring me to be a consultant. But everything was open, and there was never any conflict. My daughter wasn't involved in the work that I was doing there, at all. We wouldn't even meet for coffee. We were really, really careful about that, because, and the word would get out that I was working as a consultant and my daughter worked there, but we were very open about it. And so that's how we avoided any problems. If anybody ever asked me, oh, is Jennifer Turner your daughter? I said, yes, she is. Rather than trying to say no, and then someone else finds out she is, and then, well, why are you being sneaky? Why are blah, blah, blah. So the key, I think, on this conflict of interest stuff is being open, disclose information before you're asked, and always be honest. I will skip over some of this now because we're pretty much now positive influences. It can be a positive thing, but again, the difference between this and ethics. Is it ethical? Is it not ethical? Or is it just things working out very well? You can disclose information when you need to, but doing it in advance can be good sometimes not. But if a supplier is giving you information, we're back to the NDA as well, right? If a supplier tells you something and it's something that he would consider to be trade secret, or gives you some pricing information and you pass that pricing information on to somebody else, you really are violating the trust between the buyer and the seller. I mean, the sellers will tell buyers information because they trust them, okay? But if you don't do that, if you disclose information that you shouldn't be, or without telling them you're going to, before they tell you, then everybody sort of pulls in their legs like a turtle. And open dialogues don't happen very much because the sellers don't trust the buyers. So disclosure of information is one of the real big ones, that especially in the information days. So if you think you need to disclose information that someone has told you, make sure you tell them you're going to and get permission, or ask them, is it okay? We had a conversation about this, and you told me that. Is it okay if I tell my boss that? Is it okay if I use that? Is it you consider that to be a special thing? And if they do, if they say okay, fine, great. Most of the time they will, but it's always better, to ask. Same thing, negative influences in negotiation, and this is what we're really talking about, is things that'll influence future negotiations, right? And it's all about the relationship, right? And so all these things impact negatively the relationship between you and a supplier or a customer, okay? So these are all things to be avoided. If you go to that website, you can look up the Code of Ethics, but I'll send it to you anyway. Okay. And I think we're done. Yeah, the corporate social responsibility, we already did that before. So we kind of skipped through a lot of material there on ethics and behavior and stuff like that. Anybody? Any thoughts? What's sticking with you? And we've lost 3 people. Oh, there's a chat. Let me just check the chat. Oh, Rehab had to leave. Okay. Kim. Oh, Jane's not here. All right, thank you. So I just need to know who's not here before I make up the breakout rooms. Okay, so she's not there. Rehab, are you back? Doesn't sound like it. And Ratan, Tracy Ann, thanks for letting me know. Ratan, are you here? So she was disconnected, but she can rejoin. So okay, we're missing two people.
Doug, sorry for Ratan. She said that they're trying to get in touch with TELUS
Yeah.
to sort out her internet. So I'm not sure she'll be back for today.
Okay, all right. I'll assume that she's not back, but thank you, Tracy Ann, for letting me know.
Okay, thank you.
And Kim, thanks for letting me know about Jane. And it looks like rehab had an emergency, but okay. So I wonder if that was only 5 minutes ago. Okay. So, of course, I had all the breakout rooms figured out. Now I got to rearrange them a little bit so we get the right people in the right place. Okay, rehab. I'll assume, okay. I'll assume she's not here and I won't assign her to a breakout room. So we have 22 people, which is good. Okay. All right. So what I think I'll do now is I will arrange the breakout rooms. Please do not leave like last time. Please stay connected, because if you're not connected, I can't put you in a breakout room. I can't assign you to a breakout room, but that'll take me a few minutes to do. Let's say we'll rejoin at 12:15. Okay, I'll open the breakout rooms at 12:15, and that's when you will find who you are negotiating with. Okay.
Okay,
So
thank
a
you.
bit of a break, or you can read. Does anyone have any questions about the material that I sent, or you all got it okay, I hope? Okay, so let's break off. I'll set up the breakout rooms and we'll start negotiating at 12:15. Okay, all right, I'll stop my video now. Thank you. Does anybody know what happened to Amal? Or Mukesh? Kim, there's something you wanted to say? Okay.
Michelle, we're not hearing anything from them.
Pardon?
Yeah, I was saying that we're not hearing from them.
From who?
Mukesh, Mukesh
And Amal. Okay.
yeah, we're not hearing.
I guess they
Hi,
disconnected.
Doug. I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, I'm left off.
Well, please don't disconnect. I need to assign you to a
Okay,
room.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It happened, unfortunately. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Amal. Amal, do you happen to know if Mukesh is coming back?
No, I don't know about that.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
okay. Okay, it's only 10 after 12, but I will open all the rooms now. You'll see who you're partnered with. If you're not ready to start negotiation, just tell your partner you're not quite ready. And when you're both ready, then you can start. But I'll open all the rooms now. Mukesh is not here yet, but I'll look after that when he comes. So okay, I'll open all the rooms right now. Daisy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Mukesh is supposed to be your negotiation partner, but he's not here yet. If he doesn't come in the next few minutes, I'll assign you a new partner, okay?
Yeah, okay,
So-
thank you.
but don't panic.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Let me. Oh, we got 4.
Oh, we have who again? Doug is in this room as well?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So what is
Who did you get? Who are you, Nick?
Can you all hear me? Sorry,
Yes.
can you all hear me?
Yeah, Doug.
Okay, there are 3 of you in this breakout room. There's one person with Porto, that's Nick. And there are 2 people doing Technotronics, Kaushik and Tracy Ann. So Kaushik and Tracy Ann, you'll work together.
Okay.
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 Now, I'm going to wait a few more minutes because Mukesh has not joined us yet. And when he joins us, if he doesn't join us, I will be moving either Kaushik or Tracy Ann to a different room. But that'll happen in the next minute or 2. But you can feel free to discuss in the meantime.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wait,
Mukesh, can you hear me?
Hi, sir. Hello.
Mukesh?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to assign you to a breakout room. I asked you not to leave the main room, and you did.
Sorry, sir. Because there is some construction work going on beside my house, so there is like some wiring issue in my house.
Some what?
There is some wiring issue in my internet, like internet modem. They got like disconnect after half an hour.
Okay, so are you okay now?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm using on my internet now.
Okay, I'm trying to get you into a breakout room. Okay, just a minute.
Okay.
I think that's a little low.
Yeah, it's just a little.
Hello,
No,
hello, room
really
12.
low.
Hello, room 12. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're okay. The three of you will work together. Mukesh is here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Nick. What do you think, Kaushik? I think he's being unreasonable.
Rehab, are you here? No. Okay. Rehab, can you hear me?
I am just a humble villager.
Hello? Hello, room 3.
Huh?
Hi.
Yes.
Is
Hi.
everything going okay? I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, you had 3 in your room.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everything is
Yeah,
good.
we still okay. Yeah.
So you have 2 people with Technotronics and 1 person from Porto.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
Okay. All right. So things are going okay?
Yeah, so far so
Yeah.
good.
Hearing, debating.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye.
Doc.
Alexander and B, are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Here. I'm here.
Oh, good. So you came to a deal.
Yeah, exactly. And it
Okay.
was a pleasure to have a negotiation with Steve.
It was a very collaborative agreement.
Okay, good. All right, good. Well, you have a few minutes to break. You can take a break. I'll be asking each of the groups to kind of give us a bit of a debrief on their negotiation, starting at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty, thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Hi, Doug.
Okay, I think we're all back. For those of you that are comfortable, I would encourage you to turn on your video just for this last chat when we talk about the negotiation. I think it's more interesting if we get to see each other. If you can't, that's okay. But
Yeah,
if you can,
yeah, it was really fantastic, Doug. It was really fantastic. Our group, like we at the end we come to last prize, but the discussion went very good.
okay. So you're group number 12. So all right, well we'll go through group by group. So Akashik, okay, your group. It went very well. What went well? Nick or
Oh,
Tracy Ann can talk too.
it went good in the terms like we discussed about every cost associated with the things. So first, Nick suggested us to come to the price of 4.6, but we did not agree. Then we were like negotiating the price for 5.5. Then and the end, we come to the final price of 5.2 and making the arguments like we want to be in proximity with you for the long term, and you are our previous customers. So that is the thing. It was really good.
Tracy Ann, your comments.
It was pretty good. The buyer, Nick, he was driving a pretty hard bargain because he's starting out very low, extremely low. And Kaushik, my partner, he was on the higher end. So I had to come in and strike a balance somewhat because Kaushik wouldn't budge and Nick wouldn't budge. So
Okay.
I had to come in and show them that it's we need to go back and forth a bit, give a little to get a little. That's always my strategy in negotiations. So
Yeah.
came up with the 5.2, which we all agreed with.
So Nick, you were a hard buyer.
Yeah, and Kosek also, he is also very strict. And when I try to read to the price that is in the middle, but like Kosek, he insisted the final price has very higher at higher size. So thanks to Tracy, she's just suggested with some idea that I accepted to commit it the quantity 200,000 for the second year.
Yeah.
So yeah, finally we agree on the price 5/2. That's a good deal, I think.
Okay, good. Let's go to the other group of three. You were room 3, so we had Kyle and Lynn and Nadia. Tell us how.
Yeah.
Keith.
Yep. Yes. I would say at first, we offered the highest price for Lynn, and she wanted the lower price, so she offered like 5.7, and then finally we agree for the first term like a 5.75 per unit. And for the tolling cost, we charge 38,000. And for the transportation cost, your side have to pay the transportation cost. And for the next year, for the next term, you know, we will discount from 5.75 to 5.5 per unit, and from 38,000 for tolling cost to 35,000, and her side still have to pay the transportation cost.
Okay, Lin Vo, tell us how it went for you.
This was kind of intense because like they were kind of like we couldn't make any profit. You offers us like a really low price. I have like family to feed and stuff, and like we were kind of like but because I know that our company estimated the cost for a unit, so I was trying to like lower down like next offer, but they were like no we cannot make it, so like we come to the agreement of like 5.75 per unit.
5.75.
Yeah.
Nadia,
Yes.
and if you turn on your video, that'd be great, but if you can't, that's okay. So how did it go for you? What'd you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, the first year we offer 5.75. Then we agree on the second year we'll go lower at 5.5.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and we also decrease the tooling cost, right? And transportation, it will be X work, so Lynn has to pay for transportation costs. But anyway, it's low. It's 0.
Okay.
0 point something earlier.
Well, perfect. Okay, and in group 4, we had the two Joels together. How did that go?
Hello, Doug. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, so we started off at 5.2 with 30,000 retooling cost taken by them. And the final price was fixed as 5.4 with the retooling cost split halfway.
Right. Okay. Sam.
Yeah. I agreed on his view because he knows how I am. So I didn't have much room for the talk. So we both agreed on the same thing, and he promised that we'll see with the first year how we'll go, and then we'll move on with the same thing in the next year.
Okay.
So it's so the next year will depend on the performance. So we may increase the price, or I don't know what happens next year.
Right. Okay. Good. Group 5, Alexander and B.
Yep.
It was a very collaborative negotiation.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say, yeah, it was collaborative, and we end up at price 5.55.
Good. And it went well. So what do you think made it go so well? Why was it collaborative? Was it just because it was the two of you? What did one of you or the other of you do to make it more collaborative? If you know.
B, do you want to start?
It was more towards because we were looking at the retooling cost, and because Alexander mentioned that it's gonna take a heavy toll on the cost. It's gonna hit the operating cost the most. That's when we thought about it, and it's like he let me know that it's only gonna be worth it if the tooling costs are gonna be some handled to a certain extent, and there's gonna be hope for future business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what that's what gave me the leverage I needed to help him negotiate come to an agreement. And because I know that, okay, on Porto's side it's supposed to be 4.10, and which actually when I went to 5, Alexander said that's too low. And I also remembered that it's true, we can pay too little, we can pay a supplier too little. So I wanted to meet halfway, and when we talked about it, we decided to divvy up the tooling cost. Anyway, the transportation cost is almost nil, so we stopped at 5.55 with the agreement that we'd be splitting the tooling cost 50-50, and there's going to be follow-on order of equal amount and a possibility of more.
Okay, group number 6. Good job, guys. Good job. I want to go through fairly quickly, so don't keep you too late. Group number 6, Trang and Amal.
Oh, hi, Doc.
Yeah.
I'm Trang, and after time of considering, we agree to set the unit price for 5.5, and the tooling cost is 30,000.
Okay, great.
And yeah, and that's all. And it is quite well and smooth, I think. Yeah.
Amal, what do you think?
Thing was it
Yeah.
was like transportation cost. So we are providing a benefit for them, like the transportation cost will they can reduce the transportation cost. Like if we're giving it for us, like it's cost only for 0.02. So that's a good thing for them.
Yeah.
And our payment will be like always in advance. Suppose we are delivering 20,000 units in December, we'll get the cash advance the month before, like that.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Group 7. It was Manpreet and Roy.
Hi, Doug.
Hi.
So we started. He started like at 4.1, and we agreed on a price of 5. It was okay for me because he agreed to pay for the retooling cost fully. So that's why, because I agreed for a price of 5.
Okay. Manpreet, what do you think?
Yeah, we are negotiated at this price. Like it is fine for me. If it will decrease at 5, and I can pay the other costs.
Okay, good. Daisy and Mukesh.
Hi, sir.
Hi, I'm a buyer, and we didn't negotiate the unit price, but Mukesh proposed me the total cost
Overall.
of 200,000 units, and I think it's quite a good price for me. He proposed on 930,000 for the whole 200,000 units, and I accepted it.
Okay.
About the tooling cost, he said that the first 100,000 units will be free to. He won't charge me any cost for the first 100,000, but the last 100,000 he will charge me 60 cents per unit. And I think it's a good deal for me, and I accepted it.
Well, good. So Mukesh.
Yes, sir.
Did it go well for you?
Yeah.
Well, why did you
Yeah,
decide? You gave
I
her
make a offer. I make her offer of like on a overall 200,000 unit. Like for 200,000 unit, the estimate price from my side is like 9,35,000. As she is our long term customer, so I gave her a discount of $5,000 on overall.
She came to an agreement pretty quickly, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So Jandel and Sajiv.
Hi, Doug. Yeah, so initially I bargained lower than what I should pay because I bargained 3.8 unit cost. So and Sajiv was mostly concerned of the volume. Like he was asking if I really have to, if I need 200,000 more. So he's much more concerned with the quantity, not with the price. But then he said he can accept the deal for $4 per unit, and that's what I when I told him I can agree with 4, but then he has to take over the transportation cost. So it got me $10 less, and as well as the transportation cost. So it was a pretty good deal for me, but not for Sajib. Sorry, Sajib. So yeah. So
Yeah,
there.
I was negotiating with an experienced sweet talker, so I think I had no choice there, no chances there. And I think General is giving me 400,000 units per year, and I think per 4, I think it will be okay with me. Well played,
Yeah,
General. Well played, General.
and but with regarding the tooling cost, it will be covered. Nothing to change with the tooling cost. So that's when I felt, because in the middle of our negotiation, I felt a little guilty. So I I just said the tooling cost will be covered by the buyer. So yeah.
Okay, all right. That sounds like it was an interesting negotiation. So we have Tijo and Christina.
Hi, Doug.
Yeah, Tijo.
Yeah, we came to a final result that she will reduce the transportation cost for 1 year, and we have a contract for 5 years, and there will be a 10% discount in tooling cost.
So Christina, how did it go for you? Did it go smoothly?
Yes, it was very smooth. Then very surprised because the first offer that I offered him that 10% for tooling cost, and then the first year will be the transportation cost, and then he didn't argue a lot, so I it was okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but we still stick on the 5.9.
5.9.
Yeah, the unit cost will be the same for me.
That was your bidding price, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Last group, Kim and Bin.
Hello.
Hello.
After this negotiation, I realized that the price is not the only variable subject to the negotiation, and there are some other issues. They are quality, warranty, and packaging for delivery. First is talking about price. We agree to keep the unit price for the first year is 5.9, and yeah, we keep everything for the first year, and for the next year we decrease the unit price from 5.9 to 5.8, and we decrease the tooling cost to 38,000 per year, and yeah, we still keep the transportation cost as well.
Okay, good. Kim.
Yes.
What did you think?
Oh, Ben, I thought that we agree with transportation cost only 0.02.
Yep. That's 0.02. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so did it go smoothly?
Yes. So the first of all, we agree because I want to keep the product quality, so I accept the proposed price, which is 5.9, and the tooling cost 38,000 for the beginning. But I asked for the quality, more on the quality control and quarantine, as well as the product packaging, so the products can withstand the delivery, because the product will be delivered on the FOB payment term, and the risk, we will obtain the risk from it on the ship. So we request them to do the packaging more carefully.
Right.
warranty after that.
Well, good. Well, all of you did a really good job. I thought you really hit on a lot of the key topics, and you all were able to come to an agreement, which is always good. Not that I meant to tell you beforehand that not coming to an agreement is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes not coming to an agreement at all is better than agreeing to a bad agreement. So anyway, but you were all able to come to an agreement. I have one last question for you, and this is more just a personal note. The whole premise of the case kind of disturbs me a little bit, because Porto went out and they got bids, competitive bids, and Technotronics, had the lowest price. In your experience, why were they negotiating at all? Why do you negotiate after you get bids? In my world, usually you get bids and you award the contract. You may do a little bit of tweaking of things that weren't really, that clear. But so how did, as a seller, if anybody from Technotronics or anybody, how did you feel having to negotiate after you had already submitted a bid? Is this normal?
Well, I would say it was a bit frustrating, because we initially saw that the price is 5.9. But after we negotiated, for instance, I&B had a really collaborative negotiation, and the price changed just a little. So, and in the end of negotiation, we had a clear understanding what we want and what they promised to us. So maybe it was a good possibility to know each other better and the goals and aims of each other. Yeah.
What was your final price?
5.55.
55. Well, that's a fair drop. Okay, but still, anybody else comments on why do you have to negotiate after you've already submitted a bid?
Doug, maybe I think maybe because both parties know that it isn't still the best offer yet. Like there is still another way how to deal with it. Like responding to an RFP doesn't necessarily say that it's the final price, right? Like it's
Well,
just
that's
a way
that's
of
my question.
yeah.
That's
It's
actually
just
my question.
it's
It-
just
it-
like opening a ground for negotiation. It's not like you're not still deciding yet of what are the specifics, because it's an RFP. It's not an RFQ per se. Like there is a definite quotation, but I don't know. Maybe in real life, even an RFQ tends to have negotiations after still. But the thing is, responding to an RFP is not finalizing it yet. It's sort of like opening the ground for uh, further negotiations, I could say. So, yeah, I
Okay.
think that would be the reason.
All right, that's a good point. It was an RFP, so the request for proposal, and yeah, I guess in the government for sure, they wouldn't get away with this when you respond to a government RFP, and they select you, and then you, like I say, they may negotiate some finer points, things that weren't clear. Like an RFP, often there's like specifications maybe had to be changed or whatever, things that weren't very clear. So the final price may move a little bit. But the argument that comes up is that if you renegotiate a price with, you say vendor A is the lowest, and you change the requirements, you negotiate something quite different, then the other bidders would say, well, hold it now, that's not fair. We didn't get a chance to negotiate, and you gave them a chance to negotiate. You ended up maybe paying them more. You could conceivably, you could ended up paying them a little bit more than their bidding price, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't. I guess it doesn't happen as much in the private industry as it does in the public government.
Actually, I have a question because document says that it was a request for quotation. It says like press company submitted a quotation for new product in response to a request for quotation.
Ah.
Yeah, but actually it doesn't matter because as far as I'm concerned, RFQ can be also negotiated. And I think it is also good possibility to determine the goals of each other and how you will deal in different situations. So why not?
Yeah, you're right. Jandel, it was an RFQ, not an RFP.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but Alexander, it's a good point. I mean, I guess so long as both sides agree to negotiate, you can negotiate anything you like, and that's fine. I guess I'm just interested in the fairness part of it. Is it fair to the other bidders to negotiate with only one, or should you be negotiating with all of them to stay fair? But I don't know. Especially if a requirement changes. If you relax a requirement and say, okay, you don't have to, I'll pay all the tooling costs, whatever, and you make an agreement on the tooling costs, that maybe the other bidders, if they had the benefit of that agreement, their price might change quite a bit. Yeah. So that's what I'm coming from, is this: if you change something for one bidder, are you being unfair by not letting the other bidders respond to that? Okay, well, I'll leave it at that as an open question. But good job. All of you did a really good job in the negotiation. I really liked the comments you made, and I think you really you hit on all the issues, and I'm sure you were thinking about BATNA and things like that. You knew that Porto had to bid it out, and they couldn't do it themselves, and there were other bidders, so they did have a BATNA if they couldn't come to an agreement with Technotronics. Okay, good job. Any final thoughts, comments, questions? Was it a fun thing to do? Does the technology work pretty well?
Yeah, it was extremely fun to have a conversation and real negotiation, especially during this time. Yeah, it is extremely well idea to have like separate rooms to negotiate.
Okay, good. I'm glad it worked well. Okay, well, we'll see you next week. Next Wednesday, it will be the 15th. And next week is going to be a tricky negotiation. I'll let you know in advance. You're going to be, and I will send the information in advance, but the technology might get in our way, because you'll be arranged in groups of 3, and each person will be playing a different role. Like it says, an A, B, and a C. And at any given time, only 2 of you will be talking to each other, and the third person has to somehow go away and not listen to the first 2. And then there'll be another pair will negotiate. The other 2 out of 3 will negotiate, and the other person has to go away and not listen. And I don't know how to do that very well with breakout rooms. So we might have to use, we'll use the breakout rooms, but we might have to use telephone at the same time, or other people have just said, well, they just muted themselves out and walked away from the room while the other 2 chatted, so they couldn't hear it. Anyway, So that'll be the challenge. Doing it live is easy, but doing it with breakout rooms, it'll be a bit of a challenge. But I will be sending you. I think actually maybe not. I think I'll be sending you the information in real time. You'll be looking at it and reviewing it and getting ready all at the same time. But anyway, so next week will be the last negotiation, so that'll be a fun one. And then we'll have the quiz on week 11 and we're done. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day and a good week.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Doug. Bye.
Thank you, Doug. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye-bye.